Brilliant. We'll give it a couple more seconds to let people join.
That's a lot of people.
Amazing. Cool. I think let's go ahead and get started. Hello everybody and welcome to today's webinar, Making Generative AI Real for Content Teams, part of Magnolia's DXplained webinar series. My name is Ellis Devine and I work here in marketing at Magnolia, and I'll be facilitating today's discussion and demo alongside Jan Schulte, who heads up the group consulting, working very closely to the technology and also speaking daily to customers about their problems and how to overcome them. And as you can imagine, AI has been a very hot topic this year. It makes perfect sense to talk about it in today's webinar. Jan, say hello.
Yeah, hi folks. For the ones that don't know me yet, I'm, as we heard, head of consulting over 10 years with Magnolia. And yeah, I'm a little bit the Swiss Army knife, so still quite a bit involved in development. So the AI stuff that we're going to see today, so that's shaped by me big time as well. And I'm really happy to have you all here, and let's go.
Brilliant. And obviously we want to make sure that everybody on this call gets the most out of today's discussion and demo. So if you have any questions throughout today's webinar, please feel free to drop them in the Q&A tab. And we're going to address all questions at the end, and we've allowed extra time for this. So what do we plan to do today? So we're going to spend the first 10 minutes or so discussing the what, the why, and the how of generative AI in the context of content management. And then we're going to go nicely into a demo. And we want to kick off today's webinar with a poll. And we're really interested to hear your feedback. It's a relatively simple question. Our question to you is, are you using generative AI at the moment? So you should have just seen a poll tab pop up. So submit your response. And we'll give it a minute or so for you to answer. And then we'll go through the results shortly. But while we're waiting, what do you think, Jan? Are people using AI? What are you hearing in the field?
Yes, most people for sure at least touched generative AI with ChatGPT. Obviously, that's one of those solutions that was really spreading like wildfire. So this is at least one touch point for a lot of people. But besides that, we also have already clients that use generative AI for partly their content production lifecycle. And it's also found in other cases. So there's clearly a lot of adoption happening right now in a very short amount of time.
Amazing. Well, I can see people have been answering. Should we have a look at the results? Let's bring the results up. Okay, interesting. So we've got the majority yes, but quite a significant amount of no's as well. So that's a really interesting spread of results. And of course, we're not the only ones asking these questions. Salesforce actually conducted some research recently based on 4,000 IT, marketing, sales and service professionals across these countries, the US, UK, India and Australia. And interesting results again. It seems like India is leading the way at 73%. Australia and USA are neck and neck. And the UK relatively behind when it comes to the adoption of generative AI. But what is stalling this adoption? And perhaps some of these can be related to those that have selected no in the poll earlier. Again, 70% feel like they do not have enough understanding when it comes to technology. So there's a potential knowledge gap at play. 64% are concerned around security and safety. And then 45% would consider generative AI if it was integrated into the technologies that they're using. Now, thankfully, that's not a problem here, which hopefully we'll be able to show you shortly, and really where composability comes into play. So let's start at the what and the how then, Jan. For many joining the call today, they've probably heard terms bouncing around like generative AI, machine learning, deep learning, artificial intelligence. Would you be able to give us a super condensed crash course on what all that means and how it works?
Yeah, absolutely. Artificial intelligence is obviously there's this big term that has all the different flavors of AI in it. In the end, what it really is machine learning. So machine learning is basically just having a lot of different data points and then algorithmically deciding on this data to, yeah, for example, generate content, predict the next best action, all those things. I mean, that stuff is around for quite a while, which is relatively new. Is deep learning. That's basically applying this relatively old concept of having virtual neurons, but the architecture is now much more sophisticated from what it was like 50 years ago. And basically what happened was that those architectures become much more sophisticated, also thanks to a few breakthroughs in the recent years, and especially lots and lots and lots of data, something that was obviously not available 10, 15 years ago, and also obviously incredible amounts of compute. And yeah, thanks to the recent breakthroughs in deep learning, obviously generative AI absolutely shoots through the roof at the moment. I mean, there's rarely a week where not something new, mind-blowing is really released. Obviously, what a lot of people have seen is for sure ChatGPT, when you can just basically get your yoga course or just a deep explanation around AI by itself, for example. And another thing that happened in generative AI is obviously everything around imaging. So probably also a lot of folks have played with DALL-E and so on. And basically, yeah, how generative AI works, especially if it comes to text, it's pretty interesting. I mean, if you think back, if you're a little bit older, then you maybe had this Nokia 3310 in your pocket. And if you just started to write a text message and you started to come up with a few characters for a word, then you got already this proposal. Hey, this is probably what you want to type. Should I just finish this word for you? And in essence, this is also what's happening in text generation. It's just some kind of autocomplete that just completes text word by word, or in this case, token by token, to generate all those texts that we see in large language models, like, for example, ChatGPT. So yeah, what's happening? There are incredible amounts of data where then basically the neural network learns from how a typical sentence with a certain question basically looks like, and then it's just automatically predicting what the next word will be, and then automatically just going to create all those different texts and suddenly able to answer your question. It's even more interestingly, even able to reason to a good extent. And this is one thing, but there are also obviously other things like image generation. It's a little different technique. So in this case, the network just learns how a image is more and more and more deconstructed. And once it understands this, then basically if you're just going to query for an image, it starts with some kind of white noise. And based on this reverse knowledge, it starts to create all those fantastic images that you see. In essence, yeah, this is how it works.
Amazing. Now, Jan, let's bring that into the world of content management. Would you be able to take us through the 3 key pillars where you can see generative AI helping?
Yes, absolutely. Because especially in content management, obviously the implications are profound because it can be used really nicely. And first of all, obviously, it's about the content creation processes. As we're going to see in a few minutes, you're able to create full pages based on relatively little input. So the content creation by itself is greatly impacted. It's greatly enhanced. You can really produce a lot more high quality content in a much shorter amount of time. The next thing is pretty interesting, personalization. I mean, personalization by itself, that's a topic that is more or less solved since 10 years. It's pretty standard to be able to identify what kind of customer segment a visitor really is. And yeah, there are great use cases, especially if it comes to recommendation systems. So this typical carousel, people that bought this are also interested in that and also playing with search results. That is also something that helped quite a bit to basically drive results. One thing, however, was delivering personalized content that had just one weak point in it. If you have a lot of different segments, well, you have to create a lot of targeted content. And that is something that's extremely labor intensive. And because of this, well, basically, AI can make an extremely big impact, because now you can just create all those targeted texts based on a key message that you have on your page. And the next step is probably also pretty obvious. If everything that's happening around design, so let's say teasers, banners, images, and so on, also here you can act much, much faster. So classical back in the days, I'm going to browse all the stock photo databases. There are going to be maybe some kind of photographer that is going to create some pack shots and so on. Those things can be also sped up drastically with the help of AI.
Amazing, amazing. Well, look, now we've set the scene a little bit to AI, and we've brought in the context in terms of content management by going through the three core pillars there. And content creation and orchestration really is what DXP is all about. And we're about to go into the demo now. And what we're going to do is we're going to show you how generative AI can help digital teams produce outstanding content in one unified workflow. And these are going to be the core areas that we're going to show. So the first one is how to create a page from scratch, then how to automatically generate SEO metadata, then the level of personalization that Jan alluded to earlier, and then how you can generate and tag images, and then how you can generate structured content, and then finally automatic translations, which is a very powerful feature. And again, all in one editorial workflow. So I think, yeah, without further ado, I think we should jump into the demo.
Yep, let's go. I'm going to share my screen. So let's go. And we are live. Okay, wonderful. So for the folks that don't know Magnolia yet, a very quick crash course. So basically, Magnolia is like your central hub for everything content management. Works a little bit like your mobile phone or your tablet. Each and every single core aspect of the system is basically wrapped in an app. So you want to work with sites and pages, there's a pages app. Everything around assets, there's an asset app. You want to create, let's say, a campaign, there's a campaigns app. You get the idea. Another great thing about using those apps is basically it's super simple to learn because the basics are extremely intuitive. Left-hand side is always your content. Let's say your, in this case, many sites and pages to manage. On the right-hand side, we have our action bar where we can, in this case, create pages, run SEO audits, run translation processes, publications, and so on. Yeah, generative AI. I would say let's put it to a test and let's generate a page. So basically, page generation works pretty much the same like you basically know how Magnolia works. Everything's just template-based, and you can just select the different components that you're going to place on your web page. So in this case, I just went with a preset. Since it's about mass production, it's just, yeah, also helpful to have already certain components pre-selected. So in this case, since Halloween is around the corner, it is, yeah, the text about creating fang-tastic costumes and eerie decorations and delicious food. Get ready to join the Monster Mash. Yeah, so in the end, what you want to do here is we just want to create some kind of landing page where we're just going to have yeah, content around Halloween and costumes and all those things. Okay, basically what's happening now is we're just going to generate the main page by itself. First of all, without any content, just with all the SEO metadata that is basically required. And the next thing is then once the page is ready, it's about having the headline and the text with image, video, text card, and so on. The cool thing is you can just really watch this magic more or less happening live. Boom, here it is already. It went with Halloween Spooktacular, which is pretty good. And then basically just goes now down one by one for all those components. So the next component that will be created, that's basically the headline. We go, it went with Halloween Spooktacular from fantastic costumes, new decoration. So since it's a headline, it is basically sticking pretty close to our primer for this main page. Yeah, the next one will be a text with image and video. And the interesting thing is also based on the different texts that are applied to the images, it's also trying to come up with a best guess what kind of image would be probably a good fit for this kind of content. So here we are. Join us with Halloween. And don't miss out this monster mesh. Okay, so it's also pretty good starter for sure. And the last one, it's going to be a text card that is going to have then more content around the actual fantastic costumes and so on. Interesting to note here, generating content using OpenAI. So that means in this case, we connect to ChatGPT, and ChatGPT is used. However, the full architecture beyond our AI accelerator basically is completely open, though other systems can be integrated as well. So it's really a typical Magnolia style. It's completely composable. You can use your own different systems. And here we are. Get ready for Halloween Spooktacular like no other. We got something for you and so on. Good. I mean, that's for sure a really good starting ground. So on the page, if you just have a quick look on the page properties, what we have is basically fully equipped with a headline, with meta keywords, with decorations, food, monster mesh, and so on. We have our meta description, and we also have a pre-selection for this org image. So that helps already quite a bit. From here on, we're just basically in standard Magnolia content management mode. So we have all of our different components that we can work with, and then obviously we could just add more components, or we could just generate components. So it's not only about full page generation, it's also about just generating components. In this case, let's say we want to have more content for our Halloween costumes. So let's go with check out our new Halloween costumes. Again, a text image with video. It's basically the same drill. We just send the content over to our large language model of choice, and then within a few seconds we get spooky the season with our range of Halloween costumes. Click here to view. Okay, that's perfect. Okay, let's create this component, and yeah, also the pre-selection is pretty well, I would say. So yeah, you get the idea. You can also then just by hand start to complete your content, or at least get a pretty good primer on what you want to do, and then you can just start to fine tune. We spoke about personalization. What I can do is I can start to personalize based on the segments that we have. So let's say we want to have a version that is tailored towards our female audience here. And here we go again. We're just going to use GPT to come up now with a version that will be much more effective for our female visitors. Check get spooky this season with our range of Halloween costumes, best for women. Here we go. So it really kept the main messaging and just changed the text. So we can just now change over, and then we could also start to select maybe a different image to make it even more appealing. So we head over to media, and then we just use again our metadata search, and we're just going to search for costumes. You can see the name of the asset is different. It's just found this based on the tag. Let's go for this one. It's good. Boom. Here we are. Okay, probably the focal point should be selected, but yeah, get the idea. It's really fast also to create those different variants for your different segments. Something that was in reality done not on scale because it was so just took so much effort. Translations. Again, here, AI is going to change the game quite a bit. So in this case, it's just one way of automatically translating content. But if you just need this instant translation for a certain piece of content, it's as simple as selecting it, running with the instant translation. And in this case, we just send it over to DeepL. And here we go. We just have this content immediately translated. And obviously, you can just do this also with one click for the full page, or if you just need a streamlined process, then you can just also request for like all the different translations that you need in one go. Okay, that's already pretty good. But what we did right now is we focused only on page-centric content. Let's say we want to generate long format content in a modular form with our Stories app, then we can also just generate full stories. Since we are looking for long form content, we have to be pretty specific what we need for all those different paragraphs. So let's change maybe this initial claim for the page. Again, fantastic costumes. And yeah, let's get ready for the monster mesh. So what we have here is now this two-step process. The first step, we just generate a full outline. And then for the different paragraphs, we can basically decide what kind of content we actually need specifically. So again, it's just sending it over to, in this case, again, ChatGPT, and here we are. So as you can see, it's already fully tagged. We have a pretty good outline, and we also have different paragraphs that you would probably expect from a article like this. But obviously, there's not too much content around. But what I can do now is for those different paragraphs, I could just, if the initial primer for generating more content should be tuned in a certain direction, I could then also just give it hints on what I actually expect in this paragraph. And then the next step is I can expand this paragraph, take it from there. Again, it's just really huge productivity boost if it comes to creating a lot of targeted content. So here we go again. Takes a little bit, and then we should have the full text body. And here we are. The first steps of memorable Halloween is finding the perfect costume. Yeah, again, I mean, I'm for sure not a good author, but under guarantee, I could not have done it better, and it would have taken me forever. So much is clear. Okay, so pretty simple. From here, I just take it into Magnolia's standard authoring workflow. So that means I have now my record here, and basically everything is just now sitting inside Magnolia, where it can be then just published, distributed, and so on. Also worth mentioning here is you can use AI in your content types, in your dialogues everywhere. This here is just one example out of an infinite amount of other use cases that you could run. So in this case, let's have multiple headlines. And those headlines could be just as simple as I need inspiration, and I'm just going to select the best one, or it could be even go in the direction of automated content optimization, ABN testing, to get the most effective headline. As you can see, it's already heavily tagged. So in this case, I'm just going to tag it additionally with Halloween, since I'm just simply going to use it later on the page. So story is created today. And obviously, each piece of content needs some kind of good lead visual. So it's about selecting an image. And yeah, let's just take myself for that use case. So it's my Magnolia mugshot when I was a little bit younger. But yeah, we just need obviously content around Halloween. And again, this is where, for example, AI can be just utilized to create different variants that match much better to what I need. So for that, we're just going to use study 2, and I'm going to generate an edit on the existing content. Again, I'm going to look myself up here. So it's Jan. And yeah, let's see how we can give myself a nice costume. So what we're going to do now is we're just going to basically mark what should be changed by, in this case, study 2. And then we obviously also going to tell the system those areas should be changed, and this is what you should do basically for us. So here we are, everything is nicely marked, and yeah, let's also just get some kind of hairstyle that is probably good for Halloween. Okay, good. Then the next thing, we have to tell what we want to have here, and let's go with a man wearing a vampire costume. So it's Halloween and it's about costumes. That's probably pretty fitting. And here we go. We have now Halloween Jan. Okay, and let's generate a variation of this asset here. Okay, again, we just send it over. AI does all the hard work for us, and then we just get different variations, and we can decide what kind of image from those proposals should be used. Okay, so that's the original me. Oh, that's a very nice haircut, and yeah. Okay, let's go with this one, and then we have this Halloween vampire yarn that we can just use for this content around costumes and so on. So the image by itself is, as we can see, it's already fully tagged, and it can be then used fully later on. Those tags, we have seen it already in search. It helps quite a bit, but we could also use it, for example, to generate some kind of alt text based on the description of that image here. Adult man, professional photography, which is true because it was a professional photograph. So yeah, and then obviously everything is there. The focal point, the haircut is, yeah. Okay, and then we can just basically also decide where the center of the image should be. And that's it. Now I have a costumed Halloween yarn, and I can use this image in this article that we just created. So again, the image sits now in Magnolia, and I'm going to add it to the piece of content that we just created. So here we go. We just going to take the Halloween yarn, choose, and here we are. Good. So we save it, and now basically the content is ready to at least test on the web page. So we go to our page back, and we just add a new component that should bring all this content basically together. In this case, we're not going to generate this component. Instead, we are going to add a component from our set of different components. So we go with a stories list, so basically a collection of different contents from our content pool in the stories app. So we use here this folder, Gen AI stories, where we just created this content. We want to have, let's say, 4 elements. And yeah, let's go with Halloween, because it was one of the texts that we just had here. Save changes. Here we are, and boom, here it is. So we have now different contents from our content pool, and we are ready to join the monster mesh with fang-testing, costumes, and spooky decorations, and so on. Because scrumptious food await, well, it's quite something. Okay, important to note here, what we have seen, that is just one use case. We just generated a landing page, and we just generated an article. As I said, this is one out of a billion other use cases. Each and every single time that I speak with a prospect or with a client, something else comes up. And this is also why we just went with the name AI Accelerator. Those are just different steps that you can use in your workflow to create a lot of content. And obviously, we have also all the functionality, so you get your tailored content based on the different queries that we have. And it can be something like this. It can be long-form content. It can be product descriptions. It can be business summaries. It can be really everything. It's just about having the right idea to applying AI as efficient as possible. Okay. Let's stop sharing and let's move on.
Amazing. Thank you, Jan. You'll be pleased to know you didn't scare too many viewers away in your vampire costume. So it's really good to see some of the use cases in action. And also, speaking as a marketeer, we spend a lot of time finding, writing, structuring content that we want to appear on a landing page. But what you've just demonstrated is a really great example of how AI can do a lot of that heavy lifting. And then we can then obviously use that as a base to then go ahead and make changes. So yeah, very, very powerful features. And as Jan mentioned at the end, everything that you saw today in the demo is available in our AI Accelerator. And yeah, Jan, did you want to touch on a couple of points there about what the Accelerator is?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's really support for the 6 key pillars that you basically need in efficient content creation, management, and distribution. Obviously, as we have seen, it starts with content creation. So you can create content much, much faster, highly targeted. With all those generative approaches that we have seen, in image generation obviously is a big one. What we have seen today, that was DALL-E 2. For the ones that just follow the market more closely, basically DALL-E 3 was released by OpenAI. It's really a game changer to version 2, no question about that. So those APIs will be released in the upcoming weeks. Once they are available, obviously we're going to upgrade to DALL-E 3 to get then also a lot more firepower if it comes to generating all those different teasers and banners. Content optimization, well, we've seen it. Basically, we just had our metadata already pre-generated pretty precisely when we just created this full page from scratch. But you can just also apply it to existing content and then just extract all those keywords based on the content that you have on your page. Content classification, it's a very important bit in the full content generation game, simply because it's for editors for search. It helps AI to select the right content if it comes to proposals, and also if it comes to personalized modular content. It's really a key cornerstone. It's otherwise notoriously not difficult, but a lot of work to do so. And this classification by AI can help us here quite a bit. Personalization, as I said, from my point of view, this is going to be one of the most hard-hitting use cases, because finally, we are really in a scenario where you can just come up with truly deeply personalized websites and digital experiences. And the last one, translations, is also a big one. I mean, everyone that is working in the content industry in the last 10, 15 years for sure knows that the one bit that just eats up a lot of time are always translations, with sending mails back and forth, getting this content back in the system, tedious integrations, and having those really quick workflows for translation management is going to make your life much better, and you can produce and roll out much quicker.
Yes, absolutely. And just going back to those Salesforce statistics that we shared earlier, it pulled out the 3 critical areas that are stalling adoption: knowledge gaps, security, and integration. And I think this really is where composability comes in, because you're free to choose the services that match your AI strategy or your governance needs, for example. And us here at Magnolia will continue to help close that knowledge gap through a lot of the educational content that we're going to be bringing out in the next couple of weeks, and it really exists there to help you make informed decisions. Any thoughts on composability and perhaps some of these services?
Yes, absolutely. Composability is really at our core if it comes to the AI Accelerator. What we just use out of the box is obviously text generation, all the things, ChatGPT. What we use right now, since the new version is not available via AI API, is DALL-E 2. We use Amazon Comprehend and Recognition right now for this auto tagging and so on. We use DeepL as well as the Google and Microsoft services for translation. Very important. What we have done here is not exclusive to the services that are listed here. Everything is just architected for a world where you can just bring in your own services, because also on a lot of discussions that I have with clients, there's obviously always this question: what about Llama 2? What about this and that framework? What about data privacy and so on? And there are even, especially the bigger clients, think about, and they have even strategies in place to come up with in-house AI. And with that, the full framework is just built, so you can also then later on use those services or any other service to do anything of the 6 key pillars that we just basically spoke about.
Yeah, that's great. And you can find any information that we've been through today on our AI Accelerator page on our website, and we'll make sure that we get the link sent out to you in the follow-up email following this webinar. There's a view of what the landing page looks like. Just some couple of quick shout outs just to finish off the discussion. It's just really good to see it as a real buzz in the partner community when it comes to AI, with the likes of IBM X, Formenta Studio. They're building complementary offerings that are really helping organizations to tailor the AI to their businesses. It's really, really cool to see. And with that said, I think it's time to open the floor up to Q&A, because I can see there's been quite a lot of questions coming in.
And so I also want to just add one thing. We absolutely welcome if our partners and clients come up with their own solution. Again, it's about an accelerator program where you can just apply the right techniques and the right tools for the right task. So if you also just build something, let us know. We are really happy to share this with the world. And also shout out to Dev 5310 also, and all the other ones that just basically contributed back to our AI Accelerator. So if you have also any findings, cool use cases and so on, let us know.
Definitely. Right, now let's get into some of these questions. So Alberto has asked, apart from the topic prompt, is it possible to create a previous context to the topic? He'd like to generate a text I'd like to generate a text enthusiastic but not too optimistic. So adding pre-context to prompts.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, obviously, the full topic of prompt engineering is a complex one, but what we have done is basically we just open up the schemata and the prompts that run in the background. So you can really, with just changing textual files, you can come up with those different nuances where you can just say, hey, you are a professional marketeer, write in a very formal professional tone or just more in a cheerful mood and so on. So that's something that you can absolutely just configure.
Brilliant. Got another question here. Are there any risks for pulling through copyrighted content from ChatGPT?
Excellent question. Well, I would certainly not go with the free tier, but if you just go with the paid for, and especially with the enterprise tier, there's full guarantee that there is no content stored. I mean, you have to take their word for sure. And said some of the really big companies just say, well, since we are also going to use very sensitive data, we just go on embark on a strategy where we're going to have our own in-house networks. But in general, the consensus is if you go with the paid for enterprise tiers, at least on paper and on the contractual details, there's a guarantee that this data will not be used for training or other things.
Brilliant. Another question here. Can I use the AI module with my already created components or content apps?
Big check mark, yes.
Big check mark. Brilliant. Thanks for the question, Jan. Oliver has asked, how do other LLMs perform besides ChatGPT?
Yeah, to be honest, ChatGPT 4 especially is at the moment king of the hill, but really big but. The open source models that are now released, especially by Meta, and they are completely, they're coming with no strings attached. They're making great strides, and they are now already on the quality gate of GPT 3.5. And if it just progresses like it does at the moment, I wouldn't be too surprised if within a month or two there should be some kind of parity. However, then obviously ChatGPT 5 is probably around the corner. There's just some kind of competitive race.
Definitely. Yeah, it won't be long, will it? Jürgen asks, is there already the possibility or a plan to integrate dedicated vector database for embeddings which can be utilized for the prompts?
It is a brilliant question. We can just speak about that for hours because it opens up so many cool use cases. So yeah, in-house we use already vector databases, and the architecture by itself is built in such a way that you could just bring in your own vector database, might it be Pinecone or PG Vector, whatever it is. And then you can just obviously utilize this if you're just going to produce very specific content. Do we have plans for this for the future? Absolutely, but that is something that we're going to see probably in very few months.
Brilliant. Jessica asks, is it possible to configure our own writing style rules as well?
Yes, absolutely. It's just a textual configuration where you can just really say, this is your role, this is how you should act, and you could even just say, hey, here's a little bit of sample content, please use the style that you find in this existing content.
Okay, got another question. How do Magnolia solve the challenges with the copyrights of the AI created content, especially for pictures?
Yes, I mean, in the end, we cannot solve this issue for you. That's a topic that will be solved somewhere else. What we do is we just provide all those connections, and in the end, it's really up to the service that is just producing those images. As far as I know, especially in the newer versions of OpenAI and so on, there are now a lot of checks and balances that should guarantee that there's no infringement. But yeah, it's going to be a topic that will be discussed, not maybe in the upcoming years, but next year still it will be probably a very hot topic. And there will be obviously lawsuits against OpenAI when courts will decide what exactly does it mean, because obviously also a lot of different philosophies. I mean, one thing is every great artist basically learn from the works of others, and what such a LLM does is not going to copy it. It's going to replicate that style. But obviously, the other view on the topic is also very valid. I mean, this is my style. I created it, and suddenly this is just replicated for nothing. That also doesn't feel right. That's something that I really cannot answer. That completely else.
Yeah, Brilliant. Thank you, Jan. Is there something planned in case when OpenAI is not available, downtime, maintenance, etc.?
Yes, I mean, all this content generation, that's not something that is going to happen at runtime. Well, this is only if you are authoring content. So the worst thing that can happen, and yeah, indeed, sometimes OpenAI code is really spotty. That would just mean that in that period of time, you could simply not generate content. Yeah. As with any external service that you use, but it's nothing that is going to affect delivery of existing content in any regard.
Okay, got another question. Why is Discord not used? Why is Discord not used?
Discord. Sorry.
Yeah.
Discord. Well, to be honest, I'm not 1% understanding the question, because Discord is just basically this chat platform. I would not know exactly how to use in this context.
Yeah, maybe a bit more clarification on the question. If you could add it back in the Q&A, we can hopefully answer that for you. Is it possible to modify the generated content? Shorter, longer, simpler, more casual, more professional, etc.?
Yes, exactly. This is basically what we have seen when I just generated those 4 different variants for a headline, and was that it can be used in virtually any direction. It could be some kind of extension of your dialogue where you just say, complete this text that I just created here. As you said, shorten it up, just take the full page content, generate some FAQs out of it, give me a summary, do whatever it is. It's pretty simple to do, especially all the functionality that we have seen that's purely we obviously extended our underlying REST framework by quite a bit, but all the dialogues, all the things that we have seen, that's all just simple JavaScript, TypeScript, and therefore it is so easy and so fast to basically adopt it to in virtually any direction without requiring deep knowledge at all.
Brilliant. Thanks for your question, Michael. How do you verify the content generated is fresh and also does not contain any other similar brands?
Well, that's also something that is extremely important not to be carried away. Just because it is generated by AI, that doesn't mean that I can just publish it unseen. Because really, remember when we just spoke quickly about what is it in its essence, it is just a glorious autocomplete. And typically it just speaks, writes with authority and always looks right, but that doesn't mean that there cannot be anything wrong in it. Each and every single bit that is generated has to be absolutely reviewed in detail, as with any content, but especially with AI, because it's so convincing, there's always a review needed. And there won't be any way around this in the very foreseeable future. So this, as we have seen, the creation process by itself will be much, much quicker, but the strategizing and the reviews and so on, this will take obviously more time than it did before, simply because there's so much more content.
Great. Chris asks, do we need to be paying for ChatGPT-4 separately to use this?
Absolutely. I mean, the Accelerator by itself, it's for free. You can just reuse it in any kind of form. We're not going to charge for it, but obviously we don't own ChatGPT. So that means you just need your own subscription for ChatGPT, and ChatGPT is going to charge you per token. But how expensive is it really in the end? We just create quite a bit of content in our demos and so on. And we also have internal vector-based use cases for RFPs and so on. And our bill racks in around $80. That's a lot of value that we get out of those $80.
Definitely. Robert asks, will it be available in different languages? For example, German prompting. Yeah,
100%. It doesn't matter. Well, I mean, obviously this was just more like a joke. We even tried to do some generation in Klingon, and even that gave us something back. No idea if it was right, but yeah, we tried it with all sorts of different languages, and you can per language. I can generate content per language. It can be German, French, Italian, Spanish, Russian, whatever it is. Yeah.
Brilliant. Another question here. For existing site 6.2, could the extensions needed to be installed and have like one first-time extension scanning the website and maybe just suggest something? And for existing site installing and configuring what necessary, how long could it take? Hours, days, weeks?
Okay, cool. Basically, it's just yet another module that you install. So it's just really our OpenAI pack. You're just going to install it like you install any Magnolia module. You're just basically going to add this in your POM dependency. You're going to run a build, and then you will have already this module running in your local instance. Obviously, you need then this token to connect it to ChatGPT, but then you have basically all the functionality that you have seen already available at your fingertips. What's important is if you're going to generate your own components, we have something that we call an AI component spec. And basically, you can tell the system what should be generated and what should not be generated, where should be a fallback. By that, let's say you have a component where there are links in it, and there's no way how ChatGPT can know how this link should look like. So this is something where you would just define as a spec. Okay, for this link, you're not going to generate anything, but for this headline and so on, you're going to generate. So in the end, it's all about configuration. How long it's going to take? Well, I would say after 1 or 2 hours, you should just be ready to run with the base configuration. But again, AI, artificial intelligence, it's not like general intelligence. It will not automatically crawl all your content and transform it and come up with something that's much better. It's really about finding what you want to do. So one use case could be, for example, as we spoke about, hey, meta keywords and so on. That's one thing. It could be just used to extend your content, as we have seen, by generating specific components. Could go down to, I just need new pages. And then you just can also configure, like someone asked for, hey, you're a professional writer, you go into this and that tone of voice and so on, and those are my actual use cases. That's also something that you can just do for sure on day one. And then there are obviously those very exciting complex use cases. So we have this one client that has this very specialized, very technical products, and typically there's just a few data sheets and that's it, because no one had the time to create content around all sorts of semiconductors and so on. And then you can just basically extend the stack quite a bit and just connect it to PIM. And out of a sudden, you can have all those wonderful long-form content articles around certain sets of semiconductors and machinery. That the different use cases are gigantic. There can be product descriptions. We had a case where there's just a lot of governmental stuff, a lot of text, and it's just about generating reports at the end of the year with existing content. All those things can be done, no question. It's just obviously, but then something where you have to tweak basically the AI framework in that direction. But again, the value that you get out of this and the time save and also the headaches that you save is gigantic.
Brilliant. We've got a bit more context on the Discord question. So it's around using Discord services for image generation. Because there are
okay, I see where this is going. This is exactly, because right now Mindjourney obviously is the absolute king of the hill if it comes to image generation. The problem is, and I don't understand it to the present day, Mindjourney never ever came up with a public API for their services. I don't understand it, but that's their choice. There are hacks available where you just have some kind of questionable or services that are good for your hobby project where you can just derive some kind of web services for this. But we didn't want to go down this route. But again, when we just saw this image generation, all those things, it's very simple to exchange basically those APIs to another service that can be done. So if you want to go down this route and you have some kind of Discord server for Mindjourney, it should be a very quick Mindjourney journey. It should be a very quick journey to basically get the Mindjourney in your system running. The same thing is we also had a look on Stable Diffusion XL. So Stable Diffusion was but Stable Diffusion XL is also delivering excellent results. We don't have it done yet, but also that's something that you could do with very little efforts. Our next focus will be really DALL-E 3, simply because the results are super convincing. We're just going to have this as a standard, then for sure Stable Diffusion as well later on. And at this point, there will be probably 10 new crazy services that are also interested. But again, this is also where I would just send a ping back to our community, really. If someone needs a special service and wants to share with the world, we are more than happy to promote it in our marketplace and have a blog post or whatever it might be.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you for that question. Philip asks, is it possible to use a variable concept within the prompt design for, e.g., adding different car lines, but using the same prompt? Furthermore, is it also possible to filter the knowledge source when based on several validity domains to narrow down the vectors which should be used for the case?
Absolutely, it's possible. Obviously, that requires implementation for the project, but it's absolutely possible. I've done it in a complete different domain, but that absolutely works. You can mix those services, and they are also, if you then start to tickle in LangChain, it's 1% possible. And the results are really stunning. But for that, really, we just need a longer discussion. That's not something that you can answer ad hoc. The only thing that I can say, yes, absolutely possible.
Great. Vishal asks, is there a way with the integration to author? Sorry, is there a way with you integration to author some of the prompts, as in some of the prompt is custom and some of is authored by a senior author, for example?
Very interesting use case. Out of the box, we don't do this. Out of the box, we just have the everything just basically in a text file format. So it just always follows this uniform approach. But it's very easy to achieve, basically, because as I said, all those different dialogues that we have seen, it's all purely JS based. And then just to give you this extra option that will basically override the standard sets, which is something that can be done really with very, very, very little effort in the project. Because again, you don't have to be an expert in Magnolia. You have to be good at JavaScript, and you have to a little bit understand prompt engineering, how those schemas work, and that's it. It's really something that can be achieved easily. And again, really, no matter with whom you actually speak, there's always this new variance, this new twist that really brings a lot of value for a specific case. Yeah, and again, this is also why this full AI accelerator framework is so open, modular, and meant for extension with little effort, aka just with JavaScript.
Brilliant, thank you. Marcel asked, is the AI accelerator available for all pricing models? Is it an extra module?
Yes, so it's going to cost $1, it's going to cost $100, it's going to cost $1 million. No, it's going to cost exactly $0. Every enterprise subscriber can use the AI accelerator as part of the Magnolia package. Well, there's obviously one tier where it's not available, and this is our community edition. So the AI accelerator is not available for the community edition, but for Magnolia enterprise subscribers is part of the package. The only cost that you will generate, obviously, is for tokens from whatever service you basically use.
Okay, next question. Today we're using Siteimprove to get improvement, e.g. wording, broken links. Is it possible to use AI instead?
For broken links, I think, yeah, this is also very interesting talking point. There are certain things that are solved extremely efficiently already, and they could be solved in theory with AI. The big question is, why should I do it? I mean, for example, if it comes to scanning for broken links, that is something that you can do with a simple script, or even with our SEO checks, or also with other solutions. In theory, you could do it, but again, those tokens, those AI services that you're going to use, actually, they also come with a price tag. And I would not be surprised if the end result would be more expensive than just going with a standard solution for something as simple than just checking for all fours.
Brilliant, thank you. Next question. I found ChatGPT to not be very updated when searching for some information. How do Magnolia work in relation with this issue?
Yep, that's correct. So ChatGPT has this knowledge cut off at, I think, 2021 or anything like this.
Yep.
And obviously, we just utilize ChatGPT here at this point. The big question is really what it's all about. If it's about writing the latest news, then that's probably not the right service to use. Then maybe another service can help. Plus, if you just look at, it's maybe not the best example, but just to give you an idea, if you just look at Bing search, for example, then you can just incorporate certain contents and then just use summarizations of those, and those summarizations can be then in a second step fed into the initial request to generate a certain set of contents.
Okay, when generating pages with AI, can links also be set automatically on pages of the same website? In other words, cross-linking of your own pages on your own website?
Yeah. In theory, it could be done. Out of the box, we don't do it, but we spoke about tags and so on. If you would just go into that route and you would just have an explicit call where you also give the metadata so the system understands where the link should point to, then this is absolutely something that can be done with AI, or there are also other cases how to achieve this without AI. Really, it's about the details. But yeah, in general, it's possible. In metadata-driven or AI-driven.
Brilliant, thank you. I'm just going to check the chat if there was any more questions that were dropped on that side. What has your experience been in the healthcare industry with Magnolia AI?
Healthcare is obviously an extremely special beast. Well, first of all, anything that is just coming with patient data and so on is a big red no-no. That's absolutely not advisable. It's even illegal. If it comes into content generation, it highly depends on the use case. For example, everything pharmaceutical, as we know, just needs thorough review processes where a lawyer and MD and so on just approve certain messages around certain compounds and so on. And therefore here it could be maximal interesting for generating some kind of pre-sketch that is then again checked in detail. Because for other things like clinics and so on, for certain types of content, general types of content, that could be an option.
Brilliant. Well, I think that concludes the Q&A. I've had a scan through the chat as well. I think everybody has had their question answered. Yeah, which is fantastic. Thank you so much for all those questions. It was really good to see all of the questions that were asked, and it got Jan thinking. So that's always good. So final thoughts from our side. We'll send a follow-up email with the recording and relevant links that we've mentioned throughout today's discussion and the demo. And I encourage everybody to sign up to our newsletter as well, because over the next coming weeks, we're going to be sending out some great AI content. So yeah, that leaves us to say, I hope you enjoyed today's session, and I wish you a pleasant rest of the day, and look forward to seeing you next time.
All right.
Thank you, everybody.
Yep. Cheers. Bye-bye, and speak
Bye-bye.
soon.